Hi there, Marcos. Great to
Hi.
have you here in this webinar. It's wonderful to have you with us. And would you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about where you are, where you work?
Okay, Carol, thank you. But before that, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity and congratulate for this wonderful initiative. Well, my name is Marcos Bicalho. I'm from São Carlos. It's in the central area of the state of São Paulo. I've been working as a general adult psychiatrist, let us say 28 years. It's quite a lot. And I work for the city of Araraquara, which is it's a neighbor town here. And both São Carlos and Araraquara are, quite large towns. So I've got to have a very diverse experience in psychiatry here, considering, clinical pictures and quantity of people and demands. So I'm happy that I can share, my experience, and maybe it will contribute to, the reflection of this very important theme, which is tapering.
Mm-hmm. And can you tell us something about the patients that you treat? What kind of people are they?
Let's first consider that Brazil is a very large country. We have a variety of customs from north to south. In São Paulo, we have a big mix because São Paulo is a state which concentrates a lot of labor activity. It's a very populated state, and so it varies a lot in terms of the culture, and it's a mix. In other states, it's a little bit more like concentrating on their cultural heritage. But the patients I see usually, they are very humble people, very simple. They come from the percentage of the population which has a low income, and unfortunately they have a low education too. Many of them don't know how to read and write, so they have a hard time getting along with things in society. But they are very resistant. They are very, considering their situation, they are very resistant. And
you mean that they really find their power to go through life?
That's right. If we consider what they go through, I would say they have a very high resilience or a very resistance to hardship, difficult situations, economic difficulties, all sort of difficulties. And they usually have a very high effect to the health system in a way, but in the other way, their needs are not met in many ways. So these are people that they have a tendency to have a lot of complaints. But part of the complaints is it's not just their problems, it's about the whole situation they live. It's including what the health system offers them. So this is very complex situation. And these patients, they come usually with a lot of body symptoms. All of their hardship becomes pretty much complaints about their pain in the body. So it's a population that you need a lot of communication skills to get through this body language and go into the emotional language. So this is one of the challenges I have been going through the whole career, really.
So do you mean to say that when they come to see you as a psychiatrist, they start talking about their body pains?
Right.
Isn't that
See, their
remarkable?
presentation. Yes, their presentations. It's amazing. I'm also thinking about even recording some of these situations, because usually they come, they don't introduce themselves as being, I am such and such, etc. They come and say, my body aches here, I have a pain here, or I can't breathe, I have short of breath, I have palpitations, I have also all sort of things in the body. That's their presentation. It's very much a body language. It's amazing. It's incredible because they speak with their body. It's a typical characteristic of the people I see.
Right.
They have very, very little vocabulary, and so they use the body language.
So they wouldn't say to you, I feel depressed, or I feel a lot of stress.
Most of them, no. Of course, there are some of them, they have a little bit of knowledge on emotions, a little bit of perceptions about the emotions, and so they come and they can say how depressed they feel. But what I'm saying here, it's related to the majority. The majority of them, they are pretty much connected to speak through the body. They might call, I think I have depression, but what happens to me is my chest is tightened, my chest is I can't breathe, but it could be depression, or it could be anxiety, or the words they are accustomed to say, either depression or anxiety.
Right. So then you go into conversation with them, and what is their attitude towards medication?
Well, they have a very, very partial idea about medication. Their attitude is of hope. They have no criticism at all about medication. They think it's going to come for good. They don't imagine, or they don't ask, they don't think about side effects or problems or any balance they should make when using medication. Of course, if they have a skin reaction, they have some kind of allergy, they come right away and they can point to the medication as a problem. Otherwise, I think they have a great fantasy that when they take a pill, their pain will relieve. They will have a relief for the pain with the pill. So I have to start with a very, very simple way of telling about medication, as they are not aware of problems, not at all.
You mean of problems connected with using medication or tapering
medication? Exactly.
Right. So if you would suggest that they maybe reduce their medication a little bit, what is the reaction when you talk about that?
Well, yes. Usually the first thing they mention is fear. They are afraid of touching the medication. Usually the ones that come to I work at an outpatient clinic, they come and they are many times already taking medication for a couple of years. So they are very much afraid of saying, let's reduce. Some of them have, the sense that it will be good, but they still are afraid.
Right.
So when I start, I have really to first see if they feel anything wrong with the medication, so we can point to that, and from there we can start talking about reduction. As they notice something that's not good with the medication, then there is, an opening to talk about reduction.
So you have to be very subtle and approach the subject very tactfully and carefully.
Oh, definitely. This is my challenge of every day.
Oh, really?
Yes, every day I have to first see how the person is feeling about the medication, if there is any opening to talk about problems, or because they, for some reason, they keep the medication even if it is not working. They think it's better to keep something going on than just leave it open, nothing at all.
Really? So how?
It's hard to describe.
Yes, it is. So they have a belief, a kind of holy belief in medication.
Yes, yes. It's beyond reason. It's completely, it's faith. And it's also lack, and then we come to a very important point, it's lack of awareness. They have no information at all, nothing. And there is an empty space about information. What happens if you keep taking medication for years? They have no idea at all, nothing. And so they pretty much go into a fantasy. It could be, I think you're right, it could be say that's a holy point for them, you know. It's they take every day, and besides that, they recommend to their neighbors, they offer their own medications to people around them. That goes even further. They think it's so important that they recommend to the neighbors. They even give medications they have to the neighbors. You know, it's beyond reason. It's something that you have to understand from another angle.
Yes, I see. And now let's talk about something else. Let's talk about the price of medication. Is it expensive, or do people have to pay for this medication themselves, or how does that work? Because
okay, the people I see, they have no money for buying the medication. We have a city, you can call it, no, it's a pharmacy. They have all the medicines that I use. There is a list, of course, that I can use, and they pick up the medication there. They don't buy it, nothing. They just, of course, the list is not very large. I have a couple of options, but I use these options because I know they are very equivalent to the other options. It's just marketing that makes the difference. At the end, you have pretty much the same results. So in terms of price, in general, if I had to buy, it's expensive. But these people, they don't buy. They get from the public pharmacy.
Right. And then there was something that you told me last week when we were preparing this interview. You told me something about someone from the pharmaceutical factory comes in with a big box of medication. Can you tell us about that?
That's another point, very complicated. We receive visits from representatives from the pharmaceutical companies very regularly.
In your office? In your office?
Usually, I don't receive them because I don't agree with this approach. But my colleagues, they receive, and they supply, they come with a box of medications, and they supply from what they produce. Every 3 or 4 weeks, they come with these boxes, and they offer. These colleagues, they keep in a cupboard, and then they give to the patients.
Really?
This is complicated because usually these medications are not the ones that are the old ones. They're usually the new ones that are coming into the market. So really? People usually will take it, but they won't be able to buy it to continue the treatment. So there is a confusion in there. And the authorities, they don't say anything about these guys coming and leaving a box of medications to be distributed. But this is what happens in the service. So there is a kind of induction. You induce someone to consume medication because the doctor is giving you, boxes, after boxes. They keep coming with the supply. And so all of us, yes, it's incredible. Of course, the box varies in size. Sometimes it's bigger, sometimes it's smaller. It depends, because they want people to buy the medication. So they have to come to a point where someone has to buy.
But what happens when a person comes to get his medication and this medication is not in the box at that moment? What happens then?
That's a big problem.
Stop.
See, it doesn't happen to me specifically because I don't receive these boxes, and I don't offer my patients from these boxes.
Okay.
Yes. So it's a problem that doesn't happen to me exactly. I don't know what my colleagues do when the patients come and they say, well, my medication is over, and would you have another box to complete my fill for this month? And say, oh, it's over. So it's chaotic because you can't stop medication like this, and you can't just substitute right away for another one. It's crazy, isn't it?
Very crazy.
I don't know what they do. I think they prepare, I imagine they prepare a little bit for options when the medication is over from the box. They prepare for options, and they say, okay, when it finishes, if you can't buy it, we change for this one that's in the public pharmacy.
But we hear from people who use psychiatric medication that you just can't go switching from medication A to medication B, or maybe in the meantime, people use benzodiazepines just to calm down, but people can get very sick from that.
Of course,
from being cut off from their medication.
Right. Well, you see, that's what I say. These people are very resistant because sometimes they're put in situations like this. The medication is over, and they have to switch right away, and they have to put up with the withdrawal symptoms, and they have to adjust the best they can. And that's what I said when they come and their needs are not met, because offering medication is far away from their needs. That's what I meant. When the service offers a consultation and medication, many times it's far away from their needs. It's something it's been like this for years. When people come and complain about emotional things, they receive medications to calm down. And what I've been noticing is I have to start promoting a different kind of approach, trying to find out what they're really looking for, what they need, and try to get as close as possible to what they need. So many times it's not medication at all. No. So, they want someone to talk to. They want someone just to recognize what they feel is legitimate. That's all. That they can feel what they feel, and they can talk about it. That's something that I've been trying to do. But in terms of these problems with medication that comes from the pharmaceutical companies, I don't have any, because I'm out of this approach. Yes.
Yes, fortunately. Well, so you were speaking before about this lack of awareness of maybe bad effects that medication can have. Could you tell me something about where this comes from, or maybe I should say, where does this lack of, there's apparently a total lack of information, or maybe there is somewhere the wrong information.
Yes. Well, I think from my perspective, I think you can consider a very general lack of interest in the subject, either from the political side, and also from the professionals. They don't they don't get so much interested in subject. The patients, they are not aware of these things, but nobody stimulated them to think about it. So you have from the politicians, maybe because this subject will not render any vote, mental health is usually the area that stays for last. They take care of other things first and then mental health. So politicians, they are not interested in turning the policy into another kind of mentality. They think if someone is coming for medication and they receive medication, that's okay. They want medication. They are looking for this. And the patients, they are not interested because they are not stimulated to think about it. They are, we can say not victims, but they are the ones that are not in power to go after and start thinking about all the confusion that's behind medication. And the other point is the professionals, even psychiatrists, they are much into making diagnosis and giving the medication, as if we had a point-to-point connection. Okay, this diagnosis connects to this medication. Yes. It's a long story. Of course, there are many other people who told this story better than I could done here, but it's a long story about the lies behind all the research on medication and the instructions about diagnosis and using medication. So there is a big confusion. Mm-hmm. And of course, we cannot diminish the participation in this lack of awareness of the media. Mm-hmm. The media is also participating, distorting information, giving emphasis on the biological research, the biological findings, and not putting more attention to relational problems, social problems. They are much into just saying what's the recommendation in terms of biological treatments.
So you mean
so media,
this is still the story of there is some kind of thing missing, some kind of chemical in your brain. This
exactly
that has been disproved now, but you were saying that in the circumstances where you work, this idea is still 100% active and.
Oh yes, the media is still out of the track. They are still promoting, what, let's say, science says about treatments, mental treatments. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, the media, I think, is not collaborating for this clarifying, mm-hmm. coming with, all the different perspectives. I'm not saying that we should go against any biological treatment. Of course, we have to use all we have. Mm-hmm. But what I'm trying to get into is to clarify for the patients the confusion that's behind. Mm-hmm. There is a huge confusion, even for professionals. If you talk about, tell me, what does this medication do in your body? They will be confused. They can't tell the whole thing. They say, well, okay, this is something that acts in your brain and it stimulates this neurotransmitter, and that's all. That's as far as they can go.
Right, because
so partial.
Yes, and could you tell me where could people get information? Let's say, for instance, let's start with your patients. Are there any websites that provide information about this type of psychoactive medication, or?
No, Carol. We are in a very, very beginning. That's why I feel I am motivated to start something about this, because there is no support groups. I searched many different headings in the these search machines. I couldn't find any. My colleagues don't know about any support groups that will at least provide some information about medications. There is no specific page that you can find this, at least in Portuguese, that I could find. So the only source of information the patients have is the professionals they see. They come to the clinic, and the only people that can give some information and trustful information are the professionals.
Yes, and they
So
are the
there
ones
is a need
who
to
are
build.
who were just repeating what they learned in their education 20 years ago, and they're still talking about a missing chemical in the brain.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
yes, and could you tell me how has education, is it changing now? Like young people who are leaving the university as a psychiatrist, do they have a bit more insight in what is really going on, or what are their ideas about what they are
Well, I'll tell
actually
you
going to
something.
do?
I got very surprised. Very recently, we got two new colleagues that are just coming out of the university. And I was, I can say, shocked to see that they are even further into medication and thinking only, they accept, of course, that there are social problems. They know that mental problems, they are developed in a social environment, and this social environment influences the whole thing. But actually, when they practice, they only talk about the medication. They are very much into the biological model, where medication serves to correct or to reestablish some kind of balance, biological balance, that they lost. So the new generation of professionals, I was surprised. They are not open to see in a different way. They are keeping the thing is going on.
So
The emphasis.
So the training that they're getting is very conservative, but maybe
Yes.
that's the same in other parts of the world as well. Maybe it's
Oh,
just
yes.
people outside the system who are thinking a bit further now.
Yes, I think so. Pretty much. This is what I recently confirmed. These new colleagues, they confirmed this idea. Yes.
Yeah. Well, so how could you start to create awareness in a situation like that? Because if I hear what you're saying, probably everything is against you. Like the politics are not interested. The young psychiatrists have no clue about maybe a new approach. Your colleagues just want to keep their patients happy.
Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
a long way to go for you, Marcos.
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes it feels like it's going to be too much, but we have to start somehow. Even if I'm not going to harvest my seeds now, I have to plant them anyway. So the idea is, as I mentioned before, is not to swim against the current. That's not what I'm going to do. It's not worth it.
Yes.
But maybe we should float aside and offer some other perspective. Awareness has to be developed. We have to go into this, perhaps thinking about the main issue in awareness. That's communication, isn't it? Communication, I think, is central to this idea of awareness. So if we can develop some kind of communication plan, something that now we were just talking about previously, it will be wonderful.
Yes. So it would have to be a plan to include well, the patients, and to include the medics as well, the doctors.
Right. See,
Big
I,
plan,
I,
or maybe a double plan, a plan with two.
yes, that's why I think the World Tapering Day, it made so much sense. I think as I mentioned to you in the beginning, I thought I was kind of late because I was writing a couple of days after, it started, but it just made so much sense to me that immediately when I saw this, I imagined that through this initiative, people could try to exchange ideas, my material, support. So the World Tapering Day could be, as it's starting now, could be a place to open some space for this exchange.
Absolutely.
That could be something. Yes. And of course, we need a network. We need a network for patients and for professionals. And I think we should start everyone in your own country first. But you see, we have to start from somewhere. And as we were talking, maybe the space that's opening through the World Tapering Day can be a beginning, can be something that we can adjust a plan. And because I see that the problems I face, it's in many different countries, the same thing, the same problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course, the population has different
Yes,
characteristics, and
it's
the
true.
strategies will be different, but the main problem probably is very close to be the same. So
Absolutely. We discovered that when we were talking about with Javier, who will
yes.
Javier Romero Cuesta, who will be
Mhm.
interviewed after, and he said it's what did he say? He said it's the same
Well, he just
story, but a different version or something. He said
exactly.
something like that. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. I was amazed to see how similar, how very much the same the problem was. So there is something that, and this is the big picture behind. There was a kind of similar influence through the research and the pharmaceutical companies. The kind of influence, they were pretty much the same everywhere. And
yes, and
yes,
absolutely. Well, Marcos, I'm looking at the clock and I'm thinking we have to make way for our next part of this webinar, which is Dr. Javier Romero
of
Cuesta,
course.
and who will be interviewed by Eduardo Avila. And well, I just want to say, because we've been talking so much in preparation of this interview, and it's been so much fun, and I admire your spirit, and I hope that your plan or your dream to create some kind of network, and maybe like start close to home, because Brazil is a big country, and
Yes.
with the Portuguese language, if you could get some colleagues at least to form a kind of coalition sort of thing, or maybe even something like support groups, because I
Mhm.
find that pretty shocking, actually, because in Europe and in America, people are talking about tapering and they're encountering all kinds of problems. But the patients in Brazil, they have no voice and they have no face. They are actually completely invisible, and they just carry their burden, and they don't even have a place to go online and say, oh, look what's happening to me, can someone give me some advice, or just
Mhm.
so I
Yes.
think that would be great if that could get started, and if World Tapering Day could play a part in that. Well, maybe just to
Yeah.
launch this idea. And I
Mhm.
remember asking you, I said, Marcos, if we start to speak about this, would you be prepared to really go and do something with this? And you said, well, I'm certainly going to try. So maybe we could end this on this note, to say that if there are people who are watching the webinar now or who will see it later on our YouTube channel, and they think, hey, I want to get into contact with this Marcos and say, hey, what can we do? How can we do something together? I'd say, yes, absolutely, go for it. And we'll give contact information under the video, or people can write to World Tapering Day, and we'll set everything up, what needs to be done. And well, Marcos, I'm just going to say again, thank you so much for talking to us and explaining the situation in your work and in your country. And it's been amazing. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Carol. It's really a privilege to be part of this initiative. And I know the time is short, but I hope the little contribution can open doors. And at the continuation, we will have some space to discuss or even to answer some things, and find partners and find people that will maybe get together and improve the situation. I think we have to do something. That's what makes sense to me. I thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yes, and I almost forgot to say that, of course, after the next interview, there will be a Q&A, so people watching the webinar can set out questions for both gentlemen, and maybe if there's someone who wants to continue on this topic, well, it's all up to you, but the lines will be open, and Marcos will be there to answer all your questions.
What's in my reach, of course.
What's in your reach?
Yes.
We work with what we have, Marcos. Thank you very, very much.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.